So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Save Money with Preventive Maintenance. My name is Suhail Masri, and I will be your moderator. I work at Tendered as a general manager for Saudi Arabia, and I'm really excited to be hosting this session today, especially that we have a big number of attendees and highly experienced panelists. Thank you for joining us. As you know, Tendered is a heavy equipment rental marketplace. So we are a technology company. Our technology supports the rental activities of companies who rent in or rent out their equipment. So we use the technology to enable the entire supply chain from A to Z. As you know, heavy equipment and heavy machinery is the most expensive construction equipment you own. And we all know that we pay a lot to keep them running. So one of the studies estimated that it costs almost 75,000 US dollars to operate and maintain a backhoe loader for 10 years. So, however, if you have construction equipment that are not properly maintained, they will break down in the middle of the project, which means lost revenue. So I believe that regular preventive maintenance can go a long way to save time and therefore help avoid losing money. So yes, it requires a lot, maybe even a little time and money on routine maintenance, but think about the long term in effectively, safely, and efficiently keeping machines and equipment operational. So therefore, I believe the goal is to save the company money through routine maintenance. And when I say routine maintenance, I mean by that preventive maintenance instead of reactive. Because if we are talking about preventive maintenance, we are talking about the possibility of increasing the output instead of waiting the breakdown and then losing time and money to fix the breakdown. Actually, according to a report from McKinsey Global Institute on the Internet of Things, they say in the report that predictive maintenance can lead to a savings of anywhere between 200 billion to 600 billion for manufacturers by 2025. So imagine the amount of savings that manufacturers can have if they have predictive, preventive maintenance. So today our topic is save money with the preventive maintenance. And to talk about this topic, it's my pleasure to welcome our esteemed panelists, Engineer Roger Gonzaga. Roger is the head of workshop at Tendered. Roger, believe me, carries with him a wealth of experience, having been in the industry for over 30 years. And he previously headed a team of more than 150 people in Aramco and managing thousands of equipment. Thank you, Roger, for having you with us. And we look forward to hear from you, your information and your experience talking about this topic. And it's also my pleasure to welcome our guest, Engineer Kristian Jaca. He's the Lubrication Field Manager, EMA Lubricants at ExxonMOBIL JV. Kristian is an industry expert. He's doing this for the past 15 years. He's very expert in this field. And Kristian will share with us practical tips and tricks on how to maintain our machines. So thank you, Engineer Roger. Thank you, Engineer Kristian, for having you with us. So before I hand the mic over to Roger, I have few housekeeping items to cover about this webinar. First, today's webinar is recorded and it will be sent to you after the webinar or the session. Next, we would love to hear from you during today's discussion. So if you have any question for our panelists, please feel free to add your question to the Q&A section here on the webinar, the Zoom webinar, and we will be answering your questions at the end of the session. If we don't get to your question during the webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterward. So without any further ado, I would like to kick off the first session by welcoming Mr. Roger. Roger, please, it's over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Suhail. My name is Roger Gonzaga. I am the workshop of the workshop manager and tender, and have been working for several years for this heavy equipment industry. And I obtained several trainings in different manufacturer. And I obtained also in the training in Korea, which is the Hyundai equipment industry, and also in China. And we assemble a crane also in China from 25 tons also up to 3,000 tons. And I had working also here in the United Arab Emirates for 17 years in dealership and also a huge construction company which having an 4,000 equipment, varieties of equipment. Now, let us introduce you about us. Tendered offer a reliable and secured way of general contractor to rent and manage construction equipment. Tendered has worked with hundreds of contractors in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Our fleet network consists of 7,000 machines, include yellow plant lifting equipment, light equipment, and trucks. Our goal is to make it simple to manage heavy equipment fleets by digitizing most consuming steps. These are our valuable clients, and we are already engaged with them. So this is the list about valuable clients and many more for that. Now, let us discuss why preventive maintenance. And before you are going to do any preventive maintenance, all the preventive maintenance team, you should have to secure first yourself, and you have to follow the PPE, called personal protective equipment, in order to ensure that you are 100% that you are safe while working, doing the preventive maintenance. Preventive maintenance, what is the objective of preventive maintenance? Is to prolong the lifespan of all equipment, reduce the number of breakdowns, reduce the repair cost, ensure the smooth and continuous flow of operation on site, improve the overall efficiency of the company, ensure the safety operators and drivers and anyone working around the machine. Now, in order to make more effective on the preventive maintenance, you have to organize a maintenance team heading by the preventive maintenance engineer in charge, preventive maintenance coordinator, oil section foreman. There is a mobile service workshop, and bus trucks and water tanker. Let me discuss in brief about the mobile service workshop. These are the team that they are responsible to do the preventive maintenance, which is the interval of 250 hours up to 2,000 hours. Bus truck, why there is a bus truck? Bus truck is responsible for the greasing and air filter cleaning. This the team, they are going to work every day in the site. So to do the greasing and air filter cleaning of your equipment. Water tanker is the most important things of your equipment. You have to clean your machine. The machine, once the machine is clean, it's easy for you to do the inspection. and it can be identified for any potential damage of your equipment if your machine is clean. And at the same time, if your machine is clean, it carries a good impression to your maintenance department that you are doing a proper preventive maintenance. Now, there are types of preventive PMS activities: oil and filter changing, oil coolant inspection, air filter cleaning, greasing, data gathering, oil sample collection, reporting, operator education, leak inspection. But there are 4 categories that you are going to do a very important job for the preventive maintenance, which is the oil filter changing, greasing, air filter cleaning, and operator education. Let us discuss first the greasing. Greasing, you should have, before you are going to do the greasing, by the way, jackhammer, it should be greased every 2 hours to reduce the breakdown by 90%. This is very important, that greasing of the jackhammer every 2 hours, it will save 90% of your money. Now, greasing procedure, you should have to check first your grease pump if it is functional properly, and check the grease fittings if it is working properly. This is the first things that you are going to check. Then you can apply the grease into the component, which is the pin and bushing. Then to penetrate the grease inside, you have to make it sure that your grease, all grease from the fittings and the bushing is already come out. So it is understood that your grease is already penetrated inside the component that you are going to lubricate. But remember, greasing, you should have to do it every 10 hours after the machine operation. This is the normal greasing of the equipment, that you should have to grease every 10 hours after the working hours of your equipment. Now, greasing procedure is a must, because once your component is broken down, then it will create a big repair for you, and it will cost a lot of money and downtime. Now, for the functional properties of grease will be explained by our mobile business partner, Engineer Kristian Jaca. Engineer Kristian, over to you.
Yep, thank you, Engineer Roger. So here, I'd like to continue on the grease part and the functional properties. So if you can notice, grease and oil are basically introduction of lubrication to your equipment. It's just that not all equipment has a containment where you can have a seal to minimize the leakage. And then grease is also having its thickener, can contain it's easier to contain than the oil. And especially for the bushings and the pins, wherein heavy loads at low speed and heavy loads, the solid lubricants actually helps protect your components. And the good thing about grease is that there is no fluid level to be controlled or to be monitored. So it's easier to contain the grease than the oil. Okay. And then on the initial packing of the bearing, as what Mr. Roger has mentioned, you should completely fill the interior of the bearing spaces. This means that all the spaces of the component, or in this case, the bearing, have been filled with the new grease, and make sure that the old grease comes out of the packing, just to make sure, because you should not fill more than 50% in the housing, because this increases the temperature and it affects your lubrication itself, the grease itself. So there should be an allowance for the bearings or the grease to come out on the other side of the fittings. And then in the regreasing best practices, what we suggest is that some ducts, whether direct into the greasing rolling elements, it's better that the bearing housing should have relief, so that while you're adding the grease, there is a point where the old grease can come out on the other side to avoid overheating while the grease is or the bearing is in operation. So if possible, the bearing should be rotating, And then the bearing and the housing should be cleaned and repacked after several re-greasing cycles, because contamination, whether you do multiple re-greasing cycles, contamination is always there, especially for heavy equipments out there in the field. Here in this graph, if you can notice, I'm showing you two different types of behavior. Let's say, for example, through time, the temperature at which the equipment, or in this case, let's say a bearing, is having a maximum tripping temperature, wherein, for example, based on some calculations that we did, we were required to introduce 23 grams of grease to be introduced at every regreasing frequency. So if you can notice, the one in red, it means that the temperature goes up a little bit quick before you have to regrease again. Then the temperature goes down, and then the temperature again goes up. If you compare it with the one in the white grease, the white graph here shows that the grease can withstand the increase in temperature longer than the other grease, which means at the same point in time, you are regreasing less frequent, which means you're consuming less, which means you're saving your money on the grease consumption, and not to mention the downtime that you have to stop your equipment just to do regreasing. In this example, we have one of our customers who is using a different kind of grease for the pins and the bushings for an excavator. And then they have observed that they are spending much on the replacement of pins and bearings because of the grease that is not giving much protection. So the condition for this is that heavy load, heavy dust, and contamination, especially out there. So when they shifted to a mold grease XHP322 which has solid lubricant, molybdenum disulfide, they have noted that they are able to avoid a 72,000 dirham of annual bearing replacement cost. So this not only reduce the grease consumption that they have, but also avoidance of this much of an amount because of reduced replacement of components.
Thank you, Engineer Kristian, for that informative information. Now we are going to proceed the air filter cleaning. Air filter cleaning, instead of disposing air filter after using up 6 times, you can use it up to 25 times. Now there is a procedure how you are going to clean the filter. Number 1, you just have to set your pressure into 50 psi. Number 2, you should have to clean the filter from inside. You should have to blow up the filter from inside, all the dust which is already deposited into the air filter element. Just imagine the air filter, how many microns is the air filter to filter all this dust. This is like 5 microns. 5 microns filters, if you are going to blow it on 150 psi of the air, it will immediately get damaged. So this is the most important part. And once you are going to complete the cleaning of the filter, you have to fix it back into the air filter housing. Air filter housing, you have to ensure that the gasket of the air filter is in place properly, and all the latches of the air filter housing cover is fixed properly, so that the filter will not going to move, that there is a chance that the dust will enter into your engine internal combustion. Then the other things is, don't clean. There are 2 filters in your in your engine. That is called primary filter and secondary filter. The secondary filter, don't ever clean. Don't ever clean the secondary filter. Don't remove the secondary filter, only the primary filter. Then, if you found that your air filter is already deformed or any form or potential damage of your air filter, immediately replace. So if you are going to do the interval of air filter cleaning up to every 4 days, so you can reuse the filter within 25 times. So you can save a lot of money instead of changing the filter after the interval of 6 times of cleaning. So we have proceeded to the oil and filter changing. Now, your interval of the oil changing of the engine is every 250 hours. But it can extend it up to 500 hours, but there is a certain procedure that you are going to follow. As I said, if you are going to clean your air filter in right preventive maintenance, in right procedure that you are going to set the correct pressure. So then at the same time, you are going also to use the right quality of the oil. And then you have to use also the right quality of the diesel. And at the same time, you have to get a sample for your oil for oil analysis. Then after that, the result, once it is okay, because you are cleaning the filter in a proper way, then you can extend the preventive maintenance interval up to 500 hours. Just imagine how much thousands of money that you are going to save if you have, let's say, 1,000 of equipment. Instead of changing the oil in every interval of 250 hours, then you can extend up to 500 hours. So this is the very, very important. Now, and the oil properties and the basic function of the oil, of good engine oil, it will go into explained by our business partner from Mobile, Engineer Kristian. Over to you, Engineer Kristian.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Roger. So again, I'm back. So we'll just cover on the basic functions of a good engine oil. So basically, whatever the equipment, whether how complicated it is or how simple it is, it always does the basic simple things. It lubricates, it cleans, it seals, especially on the piston cylinder area, because of course you don't want to have the negative effect of blow-by. And then it also cools the high temperature because of the combustion in this area. And of course it protects us from rust and corrosion of the metal engine parts. So in this case, it might look a bit complicated, but I'll explain it to you in this way. So if what you can see on the first column are just the properties or characteristics of the oil. Your oil has high thermal and oxidation stability. Your oil has good TBN stability. Your oil can handle soot. Your oil can have a good compatibility with seals. So that's not actually what you were paying for. So those properties of the oil will give you the advantage of the second column, which I mentioned. Say I'll explain it for high thermal and oxidation stability, which means your oil doesn't burn easily. So which means there's no sludge buildup, less deposit, and your viscosity will maintain and doesn't increase. So that would mean you're increasing your engine life and reduce the spare parts cost. Another example I'd like to point out here in this part is the improved TBN and stability. As we all know, combustion actually produces acids. So in this case, you have deposit control, acid neutralization, which means your oil doesn't drop the total base number, which means you can extend longer drain interval. This is where you save money. And then you have improved safety. Why safety? Because the lesser your man-machine interaction is already an improved safety. And then you reduce oil and accessories cost. So if you can notice, in a nutshell, the first column are the properties of the oil that will give you the advantages, which is listed on the second column of this slide. And in turn, the last column are the benefits that you are actually buying from the oil. So it's not actually you're buying lubricants, this is actually buying lubrication. So all in all, you have a reduced overall maintenance cost. This is your advantage, this is your benefit, and not the properties of the oil. The benefit of having a good and high performance diesel engine oil. although recently there have been some common questions that we have encountered on the field regarding engine oil consumption. So before, we used to say that, if my engine is consuming oil, maybe I have some leaks, or maybe my oil is not performing that good, or maybe my oil is not performing as much. But however, because of the improvement of the engine designs we're in, because of these recent regulations, engine temperatures have been designed to have higher temperatures. So it is quite a bit normal nowadays that engines are consuming oil. In some cases, it can be mentioned in the manual. You may check it in your manual as well, because it's also part of it. And then one thing also is the driving habit. So it also affects because of the extra pressure on the seals and the gaskets, because of the oil has found its way, gets burned in the combustion chamber. So other than that, also as what Mr. Roger has mentioned, overfilling the oil can also increase in the consumption of the oil. And then wrong top up also, wrong viscosity top up of the oil is also affecting the consumption of the oil. The table here, although not limited to, but this will help you and guide you for investigating what are the potential causes of your engine oil consumption in your machines.
Now, okay, thank you, Engineer Kristian. We are going to proceed now the PM service interval. On this PM service interval, this is broken down into 3 levels. Now, PM1, PM2, this is for the heavy equipment machinery, the dozer, shovel, excavator, wheel loader. These are all the parts on this table that you are going to replace. Now, in PM1, this is 500 hours, PM2, 1,000 hours, and PM3 is 2,000 hours. So this is your guide on this table, how we are going to do those intervals on the heavy machineries. Now, this is the preventive maintenance broken down again into 3 levels for the preventive maintenance for heavy vehicles. Now, for the heavy vehicles, this is PM1, PM2, and PM3. But there is an interval, there are 2 the details there for the kilometer reading and hour meter reading. By the way, your hour meter reading, it should be 100% secure that it is in good working condition, because this is only the basis that you can you can identify that your machine is in due for service. Because if you are going to just only for guessing that only every month I have to change the oil, this is not the right way. You should have to based on your hour meter reading or kilometer reading. So these are all the preventive maintenance table for the heavy vehicles, like the tipper truck, like the buses, all the heavy vehicles. This is the guide for your preventive maintenance. Now, for the light vehicles, there are 2 types of the preventive maintenance for light vehicle. This is light vehicles petrol engine and light vehicles which is a diesel engine. Now for the petrol engine, there is PM1, PM2, PM3, and also this is the interval is in kilometer. So every 10,000 kilometers, 40,000 kilometers in this table, you will see what are those parts that need to be replaced. And also in the light vehicles, which is the diesel engine. So this is PM1, also PM2 and PM3. So you will see also the interval is different from 10,000 up to 5,000, 20,000, and 14,000. So this is your good guidelines in order to do a proper preventive maintenance program of your equipment. Then at this point, you can reduce your expenses, and you are going to prolong the life of your equipment. Now, operator education is very important. Operator are the second owner of your equipment, and this operator must be trained well. And operator, it should be a professional operator, how to operate the equipment. The operator responsibility, once you sit into the machine, you should have first to do the inspection of your machine to see all the lubricant, all the level of the oil that it's provided with a dipstick. Then you can open that one. The operator must open it and check the oil level. Now, the operator, before he will going to start the machine, he's go around and see there is maybe some potential damage or any loss of bolts or anything or pan belt. This have to check it. This is the procedure that the operator responsibility for this inspection. Now, the operator, before he will start the machine, this is very, very important. I will repeat it again, very, very important, because you are not supposed to accelerate immediately the engine into 2000 RPM, 2500 RPM. Once you start the engine, just wait for another like 3 to 5 minutes for engine idle. So have to warm up first the engine. Once you start the engine, then the oil, it will going to start lubricating in the internal component of your engine. Now, if you are going to start it immediately and make the high RPM, some of the component is not being lubricated, and it will be forced to rotate without any proper lubrication. This is very, very important that the operator must understand. Then, apart from that, once you are going to shut down the engine, there are operators that are going to raise the engine up to 2,500 RPM. Now, this is very important information, because once you raise the engine into 2,500 RPM, your turbocharger is 125,000 RPM. Then immediately you will going to shut down. When it is shut down, your turbocharger is still running. Then there is no more lubrication at all, because your oil pump, which is driven by the engine, it's already shut down. That's why there will be a premature failure of your turbocharger. So this turbocharger, it is rotating without any lubrication. Now the turbocharger shaft, it will get damaged because it is required the lubrication of from the engine side, from the oil pump. So once your engine is shut down, meaning your turbocharger is not anymore lubricated. So now your operator must to know all the important things of the equipment before you're going to put into the job. And the operator must be provided with a checklist. He has a checklist always, and he knows also all the pictures of his equipment, how to operate. Because if the operator, he don't know the pictures of the equipment, then he will get damaged the equipment. Even you have a brand new car, but you don't know how to drive the car, what are those pictures inside your cars, how to use those pictures, then it will damage the car. So it is the same with the operator. The operator must be familiar for all the pictures of your equipment. This is very, very important. Now we have the PMS report. This is the greasing report. And we have also the preventive maintenance daily report. So we have also the program for service machinery, and we have the daily quality report, and we have also the top up of oil report. Now we are speed up already this report. This is a manual type of report that we are not going to go back. So we have to proceed into the digital system. We have to go to the technology. Now, Tendered is, operating at a technology that controlling the PM control service that you have to log into the Plate Manager app. So this is the procedure. Then you have to write it down, all these things on this inspection checklist, and then you will see all the important. This is the important things that all the safety of your equipment, and the report, it is there, everything: horn, dashboard, lights, reverse alarm, fire extinguisher, windshield. So these are the most important things that you are going to check, and it is on the app. You can easily utilize this in the app, and you can use this checklist or inspection report, and you can use also as your history. Now it is very easy for you, rather than to maintain all those manual paper works, and then you have to submit it, then everything, it will be fine. So you can download this in the Plate Manager app. Now, all of this, the summary of all discussion of this preventive maintenance, these are all the information. And we have also, I will repeat again, our toll-free number, 800 machine, 800-622-4463. If you are going to follow all this preventive maintenance procedure, you will save a lot of money on preventive maintenance. And you are going to avoid that we are always encountered in your equipment in the site and your equipment while working in the project, that there is an engine overheating. Number two, you encounter an engine excessive black smoke. Number three, you encounter an engine misfiring. And you will encounter also a lot of problem on your implement, that the bushing is already worn out because you're not used the proper grease. As Engineer Kristian from Mobile explained that how you are going to use the grease, what type of grease that you are going to use that you can save money. It's not a matter that you are using a normal grease. After that, it will disappear because you know the temperature. It will not going to sustain. You should have to use the right grease so that you can save more money. So in this overall maintenance procedure, and we are giving you the toll-free because we are supporting also to our machine owner, as we are doing also right now at the present situation, that in case they have a major problem, they will call us and we are going to support you. We are going to provide you the solution of your maintenance problem or any problem that you cannot manage by yourself. Tendered will provide you an assistance. You can call to our toll-free number, as I mentioned, then we will respond to you and to help about your maintenance problem. Now, we have a solution for tendered. We offer this technology expertise to track, inspect, and manage your equipment. Now, this technology, even we can make a setup for your preventive maintenance in your workshop. Preventive maintenance in your workshop, you are not going to follow every time when will be the next interval of your equipment. Through our tendered solution technology, we can make a setup. Then once the interval is due for service, then automatically it will give you an alert. So at the same time, you can, as mentioned on the inspection, so you can also check your history of your equipment through the inspection list, and you can easily manage your equipment. Just sign up as a supplier and enjoy this benefit for a very, very affordable cost.
Thank you, Engineer Roger. Thank you, Engineer Kristian, for the valuable information you provide us. Yes, at Tendered, we offer the technology to track, to inspect, and to manage your equipment. So all what you need to have is the hardware and the software, telematics and the software. And if you ask me, what is telematics that everyone in the industry talks about, I would tell you that it's a small device we install on the machine. So it's the size of the battery, small one, and we install on the machines. And by having the telematics and the software, you will be able to track the exact location of your machine. And is it important to track? Yes, of course it is important, because you will be able to see where the machine is moving. If it goes outside the geo fence, you will get an alert and you will reduce the violation, the fraud, and the theft cases. So it is important to have that telematics. Also, you will know if your machine is working or not. I mean, and this is really important because this will maximize the profit. If the machine is working, for sure, this is, I mean, it will produce profit and it will produce results. And of course, it will reduce the breakdown by having the telematics and on your machines, because I mean, the telematics will help you to get notification on maintenance and alerts on maintenance time. So you set, I mean, the telematics of your machine on time and on your calendar to receive alerts for maintenance. And of course, last but not least, you will get more jobs from Tendered, because we will push to through the software all the jobs that we receive and the inquiries that we receive. So you will be exposed to more jobs from Tendered. And if you ask me about the cost, I mean, what's the cost of telematics? I would tell you that by having the hardware device and the software, the cost is 472 dirham. So if you divide that amount, the 472 dirhams, over 365 days, so you will pay 1.3 dirham per day to track, inspect, and manage your equipment. Imagine you will pay as low as 1.3 dirham per day to track, inspect, and manage your equipment. And although that this amount is affordable, we are offering you the hardware and the software at 108 dirhams only. So imagine what we are doing. We are removing the one from the 1.3 dirham per day, and we are keeping the 0.3 for you to pay in order to have the telematics and start tracking, inspecting, and managing your equipment by only paying 108 dirhams or 110 Saudi riyals per year to have this system, which is the hardware and the software. And we are offering this for a limited time for the coming 2 months. You can call us, you can send us an inquiry, or you can send us any question. Just you can contact Mr. Sajid in UAE with the contact details shown on the screen, or you can also contact Mr. Fahd in Saudi with the contact details shown on the screen. So thank you. I would like to thank Engineer Roger again and Engineer Kristian for the information shared with us. I'm sure that when we talk about preventive maintenance, we are talking about saving money. And now I think it's the time to get to answer some of the questions that shared with me on the Q&A section. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the Q&A section. So we will start right now looking at the questions and answering your questions. So the first question that I got is, what are the difference between preventive maintenance and predictive maintenance, and which one should do first? We should do first. Would like to answer? Engineer Roger, Engineer Kristian.
Okay, can I take the question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, the preventive maintenance, this is the type of maintenance that is already scheduled, and this is already like designed by the manufacturer that you are going to do on that prospective preventive maintenance interval. Now, preventive maintenance is like you are already doing the program that every 250 hours, 500 hours, 750 hours, 1,000 hours, 1,250 hours, up to 2,000 hours. These are all called the preventive maintenance. Now, the predictive maintenance, this is the maintenance that you are going to already identify that, for example, your component like the injector, or you like the belt, like the hydraulic pumps, there is already a certain time, a period that you are going to replace. So on that predictive, it can be like you are going to, in every component, you have to identify how many hours the component that it will going to work. And before that, it will reach into the working hour. The time that you are going to do the predictive, it is like changing of, let's say, for example, changing of injectors every 3,000 hours. That before the 3,000 hours, then you are going to change the injector. So this is the type of predictive. Because the predictive maintenance, this is the maintenance type of maintenance that you are going to conquer the breakdown. You are going to conquer the problem before your machine, it will going to break down. Yeah. So therefore, this predictive maintenance is also very important. And if you are going to do the predictive maintenance, you will save around 30 to 40% of your repair cost of your equipment, and you will save a lot of money.
Great. Thank you, Roger, for the answer. So what I understand from you that the preventive maintenance is scheduled based on calendar. For predictive, it is based on a condition. So this is the difference. So for sure, the cost of the preventive maintenance is much lower than predictive because it is, again, based on a condition. Thank you so much. The second question that I received to Engineer Kristian, why does grease come in different colors? Which is the better grease? This is the question, Engineer Kristian.
Yeah. So I basically, based on my experience, I encounter that question a lot, saying that people, I like the blue grease, I like the red grease, I like the green grease. So I would like to explain it this way. Say, for example, if, for example, an LPG tank is leaking in our kitchen, are we going to smell something? Yes, right?
Sure.
Did you know that that smell is not actually an LPG? LPG is a colorless and odorless gas, which means that smell is actually added there to let you know that there is a potential flammable gas that is leaking. Looking at the grease, the color of the grease is actually an indicator of its presence, so that each brand, each manufacturer have the free hand to manufacture grease, depends on the color that they want, to indicate that it is already there, especially that in some cases, an oil that is being manufactured into a grease without the color, you won't be able to see in the bearing that there is still a grease coming inside. So a color in the grease is just an indicator that the grease is still present in your equipment and not in any way an indicator of quality.
Great. Thank you, Engineer Kristian. The question here, for re-greasing, could clean completely, or you regressed without cleaning that greased area? I mean, the question, I just reading the question. So for re-greasing, you need to clean completely, or I mean, without cleaning the area. So you do the re-greasing directly, or you clean the area before?
Yes, when re-greasing, it is also very important to clean the component. It is very important to clean the old grease, especially if you are changing the type of grease, because we must also remember that not all greases are compatible with their thickeners. For example, we all know that there is a lithium thickener grease or a lithium complex grease. Most of these are compatible with each other, and some are not. So it is very important to clean the old grease in the packing before applying the new grease.
Thank you, Engineer Kristian. The next question to Engineer Roger: how do you determine the right amount or frequency of preventive maintenance?
This is a very fantastic question. Now, in preventive maintenance, you should have to do a proper preventive maintenance program. If you are going to do the preventive maintenance early, before the schedule, then you are wasting your expenses for the oil, and you are wasting also for expenses of your labor, because you did not do the maintenance in the right time. Now, if you are also doing the maintenance after the schedule, or on the schedule that you are in the program, now you are also put in danger of your equipment. Maybe the equipment already developed on potential damage because the oil viscosity of your engine is already reduced, or the oil viscosity of your hydraulic system is already reduced. So you are not supposed to do the maintenance before and after the schedule. You should have to do it into the right preventive maintenance program schedule. So on that schedule, then you are going to save a lot of money for your maintenance because you are doing the right schedule, and at the same time, now for this schedule of your maintenance, all the things which is mentioned on the table, that what are those spare parts that you are need to be replaced, then it will be saved also during this maintenance program period.
Yeah. Thank you, Engineer Roger. The next question, do you have recommended list of equipment with periodic checklist to be shared with all of us? This is a question of one of the attendees. Is there like a specific periodic checklist for certain equipment?
Absolutely. In every equipment, even in the new equipment that you are going to purchase, a new equipment, all the checklist of the predictive or preventive maintenance is still attached. It will be pasted there on the one side of the equipment. So those checklists, you can follow also that one, but from the preventive maintenance that we are explaining now, this is based on our experimentation for several years, that the preventive maintenance, it can be extended as long as you are doing the right maintenance. That maintenance which is already in place on every machine, that is the preventive maintenance that you should have to do it earlier before the machine it will get damaged. Why? Because that preventive maintenance may be on a time of operation, or maybe the operator will not able to identify on there is a preventive maintenance sticker when will be the next service. That's why we are encouraging to our machine owner to have this technology, so that the technology will help you exactly to identify when it will be the next preventive maintenance schedule, because it will going to give you an alert, rather than to wait the information from the operator that, okay, the maintenance schedule is due. But sometimes the operator, it will not give you the correct information of the maintenance due of your equipment. So all those preventive maintenance which is there on the checklist, and our preventive maintenance which already studied for several years, that this is the right preventive maintenance in order to save money. Just imagine the preventive maintenance, the air filter, it is mentioned on the checklist guide that every 6 times of cleaning of interval, you will change the filter. But based on our experimentation that we are working for several years, and in help of the oil analysis, you can extend cleaning of the filter up to 25 times. Just imagine, for 6 times to 25 times. So this is a very, very important information that you can save a lot of money for the preventive maintenance.
Perfect. Thank you, Roger. The next question is to Engineer Kristian, which is, why does my engine consume oil? This is the question. And how many working hours should I go before changing the oil?
Okay, this is actually a very good question, which actually doesn't have a quantitative answer, because again, oil change interval, based on what Mr. Roger has mentioned, is not an inexact, it's an inexact science. So it requires a lot of study. Equipment manuals will say that you change the oil every 250 hours, but based on your experience, based on some of the experience, they are changing the oil at 500 hours. So if we look at these, what are the factors that we have seen this, why we are following the 500 hours based on our experience instead of the 250 hours based on the manual? First, engine oil is affected by a lot of factors. One is the fuel quality, especially that fuel quality is differing. A lot of different fuel qualities are available in the market. But however, some fuel quality are also high in sulfur in some areas, in some countries. So this actually shortens the drain interval, and especially fuels also that does have a biofuels or bioethanol tends to shorten the drain interval also. And then high load and high stress in highway environment also tends to reduce the drain interval. So the best way for us is actually what we call, in most cases, what we do with most of our customers is that we do an optimum drain interval study. Yeah. So we start with the present drain interval that they have. We monitor the oil through used oil analysis, and we see if it fits along with the other condition monitoring parameters, as what Mr. Roger has mentioned. So this optimum drain interval study, once you achieve this and you are able to identify the optimum drain interval that you are safely allowing in your fleet, then you can follow this and based on your fleet. It doesn't mean that when you are already implementing this certain drain interval in your fleet, you can always say that, oh, it follows in another location. It also, I can also implement the same way, because even two equipments, similar equipments in two different locations may have different operating conditions: contamination, water, humidity, temperature, utilization. So these are all the factors that really affects the drain interval, either extending it or shortening it. So a very good optimum drain interval study is very important to achieve this.
Interesting. Thank you, Engineer Kristian. I have an easy question, so I can answer it. Do you recommend special brands for grease or oil to be used? Yes, ExxonMOBIL. No, I will let you answer. If you have any recommendations, not brands, I mean characteristics of grease or oil to be used. If you have anything, I mean, additional to what you have previously, discussed.
It's a bit it's a bit funny because I've been with Mobil for the past 15 years, so
you only know this brand.
Yes. So yes, exactly.
Question in this case.
Yes. So yeah.
Please, I mean, one of the questions I received, please elaborate on the greasing directions in terms of those percentages stated in the slide.
What in the percentage? Why are we not packing it 100%? If I believe that's what they meant.
Yeah, I mean, the question is on the greasing directions based on the percentages you stated in the slide.
Yeah. Normally, the reason why we do not fill more than 50% of the grease in the packing of the bearing, especially for high speed and high temperature bearing application, is that grease, when it's being in bearings, when in operation with the grease, actually increases the temperature and expands within the packing itself in the bearing. So if you are filling 100%, then there will be no room for expansion, and this will just generate additional heat and will in turn damage the bearing instead of lubricate it. So that's why, if you can notice, the grease nipples in bearing housings have a point where you can inject, and then you will watch as on the other end, the excess grease will come out on the other side. This is to prevent overpacking of the grease, which we are avoiding overheating and can damage the bearing itself, the packing.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Engineer Kristian. A question for you, Engineer Roger, which is, as you are the head of the workshop, so the question, what would you do in order to have the preventive maintenance as part of the standard operation procedures in any company? I mean, what do you recommend that the companies should do in order to have that as part of their SOPs?
This is a very fantastic question again, Mr. Suhail. Now, if I'm the in charge of the workshop, I would upgrade the technology from tender to more sufficient machine, causing less of maintenance work to be done, and more productivity outcome. Now, if you are using the tender technology, the preventive maintenance, it is very easy to identify for you, and there will be no any miss of the maintenance program because it will provide you an alert. And at the same time, your equipment utilization, it can be like identify easily for how many hours it was working and all the potential if let's say if your equipment is working in the site, like if it is breakdown, it can easily be identified. And you are not going to waste your time to send your mechanic everywhere. And once the machine is already broken down because you have the technology, you are upgrading the technology, then easily you can send your mechanic and you can count exactly how many hours that the mechanic had to reach to the site and how many hours that the job will be finished. Then technology, it will going to identify all this information. Now, this is the most important for me, that you should have to upgrade the technology through tender.
Great. Thank you so much, Engineer Roger. I think we can have two more questions. One question to Engineer Kristian. Why is engine oil recommended for hydraulic systems in Caterpillar equipment?
Yeah, it's actually a common question that we are encountering, especially for that, is because Caterpillar, as an equipment manufacturer, is one of the pioneering equipment builders who aims to, as much as possible, reduce the number of lubricants to keep in their equipments. Imagine one heavy equipment, you have engine oil, hydraulic oil, transmission, final drive, differential drive. So if possible, although very unlikely, but if possible, they can reduce the number of lubricants to keep in an equipment, they are driving towards that direction. So as far as they have the 15W40 oil, which is roughly around a viscosity of 105 centistokes, similar to an engine oil, they were able to design their hydraulic systems to run on this viscosity, so that on the field there would be a lesser chance of misapplication. So it could be a start of something else, because everyone wants to have a consolidated or a lubricant rationalized in terms of usage. So as far as based on my experience, I have known Caterpillar to have recommended engine oil in hydraulic systems. The rest, they still use the hydraulic.
Yes, thank you so much, Kristian. The last question that I have is, what is the best PM intervals for the single drum roller, double drum roller, asphalt paver? I mean, if you have answer for this, Engineer Roger.
Okay, for the preventive maintenance for this, you know, as I provide you on the slides on the table of the preventive maintenance for the roller, and as you mentioned, the single drum roller. So it is even what types of equipment is that the engine, if you're going to do the preventive maintenance, you have to follow according to the schedule. So as I said, the engine, you should have to do the maintenance every 250 hours. But as mentioned by Engineer Kristian, you should have to make a study. And as I said, that we are going to send your oil for oil sample to determine that your oil still can work and be extended up to 500 hours. But in order to be safe, that you don't have any analysis, you don't have any things that you have a proper basis that you are going to extend the interval schedule of your change oil. So you are safe to change the interval into 250 hours.
Thank you so much. I have a last question I just received. What are the functions of telematics device other than geofencing? Maybe Roger you can answer this question.
Actually, those telematic device, now it can be, there are several functions of our telematic device. Number one, you can track your equipment. Number two, you can make a geofence of your area where the equipment is working. Number three, you can identify also the fuel consumption. Yeah. Now in this telematic, you can easily identify how many gallons, how many liters of diesel that you are utilized in 10 hours. Then it will give you also an information that if there is a fuel consumption identification, because there are some of the, in the site, there are some tips of diesel and you don't know if the machine is utilized properly or not, then through the telematic, it can be identified. Then at the same time, in the telematic, you can, it can be identified also if there is an sudden acceleration. It can be identified also if there is harsh braking. So there are several features of this telematic that can provide you and very fantastic information, and it can, save a lot of money. And just imagine if you are receiving an information from the telematic of your fuel consumption, then you are safe that your machine, wherever working in different site location, you understand that the fuel consumption rather is in the correct manner.
Great. So in addition to what we have mentioned earlier, so you can detect any harsh use or usage of the machines. Also, you can measure the consumption of oil, as you mentioned, at the fuel, and you also can record the time of the working times, because it will help you to have automatic timekeeper sheet, right? Instead of having it manual. Plus, many other things. Today, it's not only, the geofence. Now, telematics are going to the artificial intelligence and give you more information about the productivity of the machines. The best way to this machine to work, and the type of the soil or the type of the the material that the machine is working with. So for sure, we have more information about telematics. Please, contact us and we will give you the full information about the telematics that we have and the functions that we can provide you with by having these telematics. I think we answered most of the questions. So I would like to thank you again, Engineer Kristian, Engineer Roger, for the valuable and very rich information that you shared with us in this webinar.
Thank you. Suhail.
Thank you. I'm sure that...
Thank you, Mr. Suhail. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm sure that there will be more webinars coming up soon, and the other ones will have mobiles to win. So please wait for us. You will have the chance to win an iPhone 11 in the coming webinars. So we'll be announcing the next webinar soon. And we would love to see you again with us in these webinars. That was the third webinar in our series of webinars, and hopefully we'll see you in the fourth one. Thank you again, and thank you everyone for attending this webinar, Save Money with the Preventive Maintenance. I'm sure that we will be sharing with you the recorded session. Thank you again and for joining us today, and have a great rest of the day. Thanks a lot.